Hi, welcome to What the Flick. I am Christy, and that is Alonzo, and that is Matt. We're going to talk about The Hitman's Bodyguard. It's about a hitman who has a bodyguard.
So it is. The hitman in this case is Sam Jackson, and he is the one person who can testify against awful Belarusian president Gary Oldman, who is on trial for crimes against humanity at The Hague. But there's a mole at Interpol, so the only way to get him there safely is for Interpol agent Elodie Young, who was Elektra on the Daredevil series on Netflix, to get her ex-boyfriend, down in his luck, security expert Ryan Reynolds. Oh look, it's a mismatched buddy movie. What's going to happen? Take a look.
The trial continues. One of the world's most brutal dictators.
With a key witness to testify.
I have a job for you. The transport is in there.
What the
27 times. That's how many times this asshole's tried to kill me. 27, 28!
The only way Bryce and Kincaid don't make it is if they kill each other first.
This movie is so noisy. Like, even by the standards of a late August, like, dumb action movie.
Yeah.
This movie is so noisy, and I guess it's intentionally over the top in a lot of ways. And how many exploding cars did we count? And then there was an exploding helicopter. There's like a good solid half dozen.
A lot of explosions, y'all.
Like, I was running out of fingers to count the exploding cars are. And it's just brutal. It's just brutal and numbing, and then it will stop all of a sudden so that Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson can either face each other or sit side by side in a car and explain themselves to each other, and then explain to each other why each of them has pent up resentments against the other, and then it's so tonally off, and then they try to be like romantic helpers for each other, and like they go through their love lives and why they don't work and give each other advice, and it's so off tonally.
I make it a rule not to go to the bathroom during movies.
Did you miss something?
No. Here's the thing. At one point, when one of those scenes where they're sitting talking in the car, it's like, okay, this can't wait, and this can wait, and so I left, and I came back, and they were still in the car talking. I'm like, come on, movie.
You should have gone and gotten some candy
No
or something.
shit. It was ridiculous. I mean, yeah.
Maybe that's why you gave it a better score than us.
I could be, yeah. Because I had a reprieve, you know. I mean, look, Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson are insanely charming and movie starish and all that good stuff. And they, to the extent that this movie works at all, it's because of them. Mm-hmm. But this movie feels so familiar. I mean, it is such a half-assed kind of midnight run, 48 hours, mismatched, you know, guys on the run who come to grudgingly respect each other movie, crossed with the sort of recent spate of violent comedies with marketable stars that like play on a few screens and then go directly to video that usually star like Kevin Costner or John Travolta or Bruce Willis
or all the above,
you know, or Al Pacino, you know, those millennium
right.
When they show you like the glitzy box house that Ryan Reynolds lives in at the beginning of the movie, I thought, is this Nicolas Cage and Nicole Kidman's house from Trespass? Like, does the producer own this house? You know, it seemed like that kind of movie so much, and yeah, it is the textbook definition of whatever. You know, there's like one great boat chase
part's cool.
in the canals of Amsterdam.
That part was cool.
But the rest of it is just like, get on with it.
Yeah, you know, the action, when they do the action in this movie, it's fine. It is relatively forgettable. It would otherwise be relatively forgettable, but serviceable, right? It's not incompetently made.
No.
It's just, it's never as funny as it could be. And you know, again, there is a lot of like expository dialogue that is completely, you know, one of the rules of movie making is show, don't tell. And this movie does a lot of telling. And what's frustrating is there's so much action that it's like, oh, we need to break and now we're just gonna talk. We're not gonna show you anything else because we can't, like we're too tired.
There's also, no, go ahead.
That's not the biggest flaw in this movie. The biggest flaw in this movie is casting Ryan Reynolds in the straight man role. Like that's a huge mistake.
He's super uptight.
You've got these two characters where one's like the wild, chaotic hitman, and then one is the dialed in, super professional, and they're both good at their jobs, but part of the problem is they're working at cross purposes, right? One of them is an assassin, one of them is a bodyguard, and you almost want to see them both like in a different movie, a different script, it would be interesting to see them as both hitmen or both bodyguards and
protecting
let them,
each other.
Well, but let them be like trying to get to the
with
same
different
thing,
ways
but with
of
different
doing
ways of
how they
doing
do
it,
it,
right?
yeah.
But and I'm not trying to turn this in the movie it's not intended to be. Like I get what they're trying to do here, but if you're going to cast these two guys, if you're going to write these characters that the hitman's the wild one and the bodyguard is the straight-laced one, you cannot put Ryan Reynolds in that role opposite Sam Jackson, because Sam Jackson can be wild and can be funny, but Ryan Reynolds is the smartass of those two. And I think putting Ryan Reynolds in the role where he's got to be kind of the conservative and dialed in and straight-laced one, it just doesn't work.
I disagree with you on that, because I think that what Ryan Reynolds' wheelhouse is to be the sort of snarky deadpan guy. And I think he gets to be the snarky deadpan guy opposite Jackson, who is all over the place and saying whatever comes to mind. And I think that's a dynamic that actually works. I mean, you're right, you could have put Reynolds in the big showy role and that would have been maybe better, but I think that Reynolds acquits himself as the straight man here.
Yeah, but I feel like he's pulling back, whereas if you put someone like Chris Pine in that role, I think it works better.
Well, I don't think
right?
either of them work, because I think they both have contradictions, right? So Ryan Reynolds is the straight-laced guy who's like, buckle your seatbelt and have a contingency plan and all that. But then he does crazy, violent stuff too. Samuel L. Jackson at the same time, he is the wild card, but he does it all for love and for pure reasons. So they're both kind of contradicting their inherent nature.
Speaking of love interest, we should mention Salma Hayek.
Oh yeah, Salma Hayek.
Who is really funny in this movie.
She?
Because I thought she's funny, but she's overplaying hugely, and I had a good time watching it.
But the thing with Salma Hayek is that a couple times she is stuck with this conceit that is throughout the entire film, where they will play some like 80s soft rock.
Oh, that
like the whole
once was bad enough. Twice,
the flashback
like come
to
on.
how they each meet the women
Right.
that they love.
It's like the flashbacks come from a different movie.
They do, and like
Yeah.
it's like violence all around them, but then like the soft rock song is playing ironically.
That joke has got to
It
go.
happens
This summer,
over
that
and
joke,
over.
like if I hear a John Denver song played opposite a gun battle one more time,
Yeah.
no more. It's
this time
done.
we get-
Stick a fork in it.
We get Lionel Richie this time.
The flashback scenes in this movie, it's as if they come out of something like A Million Ways to Die in the West, which is this the over-the-top spoof, where the rest of the movie
is fairly straightforward.
is fairly straightforward and not nearly the spoof that you are kind of expecting.
Well, also, I mean, to talk about tonal shifts, like Gary Oldman's character shoots a child in this movie. I mean, he does it off screen, but like we go from
he's in yet another movie.
He's in
Early on.
a whole other movie. We go from like wacky antics to suddenly Gary Oldman shoots a child. Like, wait, what?
And that happens early.
And then later,
Gary Oldman walks in from a John le Carre movie.
Basically, yeah. And he does it in front of a witness, and when that witness testifies at the Hague, somehow that just gets thrown out for no good reason, except that the movie hinges on Sam Jackson showing up in the Hague in time.
Right on
and it's
time.
like, there's several scenes where you see like Gary Oldman as the president of Belarus personally executing people. It's like, no, you have hatchet men for that. You're in the palace, other guys are doing the actual shooting. But in this movie, no, Gary Oldman takes time out of his ribbon cutting schedule to shoot people in the head.
Maybe there aren't a lot of ribbons to cut in Belarus. So we should mention who directed it. His name is Patrick Hughes. He also directed the third Expendables movie.
The one that wasn't good.
Use that information as you will.
The one that was less good than the other two.
There are standards here. There's a hierarchy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was annoyed watching this, and it's long. It's like all of 2 hours long, and it kept not ending. So
there's about 3 endings.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
So my number's a 3. It gave me a headache. I was just super edgy. So a friend of ours and a critic friend who I will not name turns to me, sitting next to me, about halfway through, and goes, "What's this movie about?" I said, "Noise." And so that's what it's about. It's a 3 for me. What's your number?
I sat next to a critic friend of ours who I will not name, who howled with laughter throughout the entire film, and I'm like, I wish I were seeing that movie, but I had some fun, so I'm giving it a 5.5.
Okay.
I give it a 4, but I'd had a couple of drinks, so
I was totally
probably
sober.
actually would be a 2 if I was sober.
Totally sober. So our number's a 4.2.
Right.
And
so
since you're all interested in the tomato meter.
on the list of it's like at a 40. But on the list of movies, sober or not, don't see this sober.
I made a mistake. Bye.